We are here in Glasgow at the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, Conference of Party 26. It's a very important meeting for the world to come together to decide if we'll be able to save our planet in our home, or if we face existential threats that can destroy our Earth. We're here today to look at a specific area, of course, of the world, Southeast Asia, and seeing if it can contribute or if it will actually make it even a worse catastrophe and crisis. Today I'm very fortunate to be here with President of Alliance for Democracy in Laos, as well as the historical and economic, as well as economic policy advisor. We will be looking today, since we're here in Glasgow, on Friday of the first week as we're concluding what has been a very strenuous negotiation, but there are some aspects that we can consider. We know that since the UN General Assembly's 76th session at the high-level general debate in New York, there have been actions that have gotten people so excited you can hear them getting very aroused about the situation where the US did agree to raise and double its financial contribution, getting it at least up to 80 billion out of the 100 billion in September. And then, of course, on our way here, as people were ordering up, they were ordering up another important issue at the G20. And of course, they didn't take enough action at the G20 over the weekend in Italy. But the EU movement has been very strong to push for greater financial flow to make sure that those who have done the least and are the most directly impacted are able to receive assistance, and more importantly, be able to focus on adaptation measures that are focused and rooted in renewable energy and also a new regenerative economic model. So it's an honor to be here today. And as we conclude the first week, nothing has been accomplished as much as we want, but we have to still persist throughout the weekend. Tomorrow will be a giant People's Congress, as well as a march that we'll be headed to afterwards. But what's really important is, I think, the nationally determined contributions, the NDCs that are being submitted by every country. And while most people don't look enough at country-specific, we believe, you can see through the Glasgow Agreement, group of civil society coming together, that more must be done, that we have to make sure. And when we look at Laos, I would say there's two important issues. If there is not a democracy, if rights are not respected, it's very difficult to protect the environment. And of course, the issue of forests. Laos used to be a lush, rich place with many natural forests, and we see a devastation by neighboring countries who are not respecting the sovereignty of that state, and more importantly, actually destroying the very thing that we need to survive this climate crisis. So I thank you all for joining us, and I'd like to hand it to Bounthone. Bounthone, how are you here today?
Thank you, Joshua. I'm fan today. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to speak today about environment problem in Laos, in Asian country, in Mekong region. My name is Dr. Bounthone Chanthalavong Wiese. I am the president of the Alliance for Democracy in Laos. We, the Alliance for Democracy in Laos, see that human rights and climate protection are inextricably linked. In this lecture, we want to point out that it makes no decision to reduce carbon dioxide emission only in the industrialized country, while in the poorer country, mostly dictatorial countries, environmental protection is neglected. For this reason, I would like to briefly explain what the human rights situation is like in Laos, so that one can understand the environmental problem. Since the takeover of the power by the Communist Party in 1975 in violation of the peace agreement of 1973, Laos fell under the dictatorial one-party communist regime and has remained so to the present, and despite the opening of the economy, the political oppression, and the harsh tampering on the human rights of the people, are ongoing. So there is no political freedom in Laos. There is still an authoritarian regime in Laos. As early as 1977, the government of Laos and Vietnam signed a union agreement, which has cemented Vietnam's dominance over Laos to this day. This agreement provides the basis for certain environmental claims that are to cross the region. The government of Laos has made concession of land to China under soft lease, with term up to as long as 99 years in many provinces in the country, where explained in area of the Golden Triangle under the use of a special economic zone. China built Chinatown and casino to be populated by hundreds of thousands of Chinese without Lao people having any right to object. This is a new kind of colonialism. In recent years, the influence of China in Laos has come increasingly large. Laos today, the problems in Laos are extremely complex, starting with human trafficking and the enforced insertion of human rights activists, land grab, corruption and environmental destruction promoted by the state of authority. There is a lack of basic of human rights in Laos. In every democratic country, the citizens have the right to complain about the condition in their country. In Laos too, the right to lodge complaint is guaranteed, but unfortunately, this right is controlled by law and regulation. Almost impossible for non-countries to be activists in Laos. Constitution guarantees freedom of speech, freedom of media, freedom of assembly, and freedom of association in Article 44. These purposes exist in reality. Many laws agree do away with the right guaranteed in the Constitution. There are also major differences in the work of Parliament and the implementation of law by the government. The population is interested in the exercise of their human rights. Every critic now is the legalization of this. So these are sentenced up to 12 years in prison. Enforcing surveillance in political prison has been routinely due through the year to such of criticism and support this. Land grab. Land grabs now still goes on. The politics of the Laopedia has changed during the last year. The government will change the crown to more and more areas are now owned by foreign investors. More than 14% in Laos now. Most of them are from Vietnam and China. It's a capital of Vietnam. We stand for our right on our property which was taken from us by the government. It has confiscated by poverty of the people in several provinces in the country and leads it to foreign investors for up to 99 years, the greatest of the population. Now the government has made a new land right. The pupil has to pay more fees for their land rights certificate. The problem is the fee is more than the pupil have. Every village and every city has another fee. There is no national rule law must to people had to pay the authorities. The land grab is major violation of human rights. People lost their livelihood through no fault to their own. Often people are regulated to areas where traditional farming is not possible. The compensations are usually sufficient. Anyone who resists is arrested. An extent of many of cases of Banjip village, 14 villagers were arrested. 2 of them are under the age of 15 and 1 other person has died. Some of them are still in custody. Ladies and gentlemen, our recommendation. First, independent NGOs need to be more involved in government and international projects of objective control. The meaningfulness and environmental compatibility of objects should also be examined by the NGOs. Second, the international community must exert massive pressure to stop the damages on attempts to rationalize on the part of the Mekong River Commission have filed. Third, not only at national level, but also the international level, polluter must be punished and sanctioned. Greater control is now possible thanks to satellite technology and should be done by the UN. Fourth, we demand a fundamental trade ban on wood from illegal deforestation. Malcultivation from forest cutters may only be created from sustainable forestry and require proof of origin. Fifth, we see the development of solar power system in sun-soaked Laos as much more useful than the construction of destruction dams. If the Laos rule worry about the profit, we can research that. The fact that the maintenance costs for solar systems are negligible. They can thus achieve a lot of profit. Sixth, we call for greater attention to be paid to the environmental policy of developing countries. Seventh, we demand an end to the Chinese and Vietnamese environmental destruction in Laos. It cannot be that China projects its environmental but destruction the environmental of other countries. We, the Alliance for Democracy in Laos, hope to have caused your attention and wish all participants of this conference successful participation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Bounthone. You raised 2 important points. One is ending poverty, and the other is protecting our earth. And when you look at the situation inside Laos, it's very difficult for the people to play that role, but most citizens do, to guarantee that the land is in the hands of the people. This is because it is not an earth democracy as the people have desired, and more importantly, that the practices of the country are going entirely against the nationally determined contributions that should be submitted this time in Glasgow and again in 2025. And this is where we're really at, is looking at a specific case study. And really, in Laos is sort of the heart of Southeast Asia. And as you share the historical aspect all the way up to the current, I think we can think again about the Special Rapporteur on Extreme Poverty and Human Rights, that's Philip Alston, when he came, he actually said the policies of the current country perpetuate poverty. In fact, even exacerbate it beyond extremes that never existed before. So we have to actually now be able to participate. And those are some of the points that are brought up in the Aarhus. The Aarhus Declaration talks about public participation and people being able to have information about development projects, to be able to participate and having access, but also making sure their voice is heard before any decision is made. So really you brought up a lot of important points, and this then highlights why we have to have, as Vandana Shiva has called it, Earth democracy, with people's voice being at the center, and that way we can make sure that the voice, the values, but more importantly the vision of the people is able to exist, whereas now it's being denied. And of course, in a way, as we're here in Glasgow and also during this COVID time, it's the earth can't breathe, but either can the people. We see that with the political violence that is haunting, allow people who just want basic fundamental freedoms. We'll now move to Marcus to be able to share some of the important issues that you see as well in Laos.
Oh yes, I have. Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Marcus Wiese. I'm the office manager of the Alliance for Democracies in Laos, headquartered in Germany. I want to speak a little bit about climate justice. In the past few years, international NGOs have repeatedly reported about the illegal loggings in Laos. The rainforest in Laos is in its disappearing in an alarming rate. The breathtaking beauty of the nature is in a great danger today. Independent experts fear that there will soon be no more rainforest in Laos. Not only ADL and EAR, but also Global Witness has been investigated in recent years. It was particularly noticeable in the investigation that mostly Vietnamese companies are involved in the deforestation, which is concentrated in the area in the south of Laos and in the north of Cambodia. The evidence of the deforestation can be easily followed by satellite images. The companies of the Vietnamese Hegel Group are primarily responsible for the overexploitation. The Vietnamese were given generous land concessions on the ground that Vietnam has given Laos arms aid in the fight against the French and the USA, and that Laos was now obliged to pay something back to Vietnam. With a large number of subsidiaries, the Hegel Group digs tropical timber in large quantities and replaces the rainforest in part with rubber and banana plantations. Wherever the rainforest is not being replaced by monocultures, the Hegel Group operates mining or destroys the environment with large dams. One of the most important donors of the project is Deutsche Bank from Germany. The wood is not only transported to Vietnam by land but also by river. The whole thing is supported by the Vietnamese military, which cordoned off the areas so that nobody can see what is really going on in the areas. While the local population is responsible for cutting down trees, the Vietnamese deforestation commanders are allowed to use the area without any controls. And in the end, the population is faced with a destroyed nature, so they can no longer use. In Laos, the deforestation of the rainforest is severely restricted by law, and there is also an agreement with the European Union about the sustainable use of the rainforest. But this is repeatedly circumvented. While the civilian population is severely punished if they use wood from the rainforest for their own needs, the company that clears the rainforest in large quantities are not punished. Another problem is the dams. The government of Laos is still sticking to its plans to supply the Mekong region with electricity from hydropower plants. Outwardly, the government of Laos propagates its green energy. Who sees behind the scene notice that it's a very different picture. With the construction of dams, the government of Laos suggests that they would supply the entire region with green electricity. But the lack of planning and the recklessness towards humans and nature has led to the most devastating natural catastrophes in the history of Southeast Asia. Also, China has already put many dams into the operation of the upper reaches in the Mekong, the Lao PDR does not want to stop its projects despite the expecting ecological damage. Currently, 86 dams have been completed in dams, and a total of more than 100 dams should be completed by the next time. The total of all dams in the Mekong and the influences should be about 300 dams in the next years. The dams are designed to supply the neighboring countries with electricity, while the power grid in their own country is completely unsustainable. The government states that 70% of your population is powered by electricity. However, during the visit of the UN Special Rapporteur on Extreme Poverty on Human Rights, Professor Philip Elston, you're sure told about it, something completely curious came out. In many villages, there was only one power connection, where just one lamp was connected. The government of Laos had actually declared that these villages are now powered. With such ridiculous tricks and press censorship, the government of Laos tries again and again to deceive the world public. But the consequences are even more serious. The primary damage that the dams cause is the disruption of fish migration in the rivers. The fish are not longer able to reach their spawning grounds, and the fish population is decreasing steadily. Another secondary damage from a previously unthought of ecological planet. The dams create so-called stagnant waters that drastically increase the growth of bacteria. The injunction with the tropical climate in Laos, these bacteria produce an unmeasurable amount of methane gas, a climate killer worse than CO2. But let's get to the consequences of the dam projects. Initially, residents in the affected regions were and are often forcibly relocated without appropriate compensation. The deforestation and the resulting damage, although the ground is now irreparable. The government promises that the profits from the projects will be invested in the development of the country, but since the financing came from abroad, the profits go 100% to foreign investors for the next 20 years. The only people in Laos to benefit from these projects are corrupt officials and politicians who misappropriate some money or are bribed. The resulting mines not only cause further damage in the corridor, but also provide an agriculture on the groundwater and the waters. However, what should stop the world public at times of climate change are the huge natural catastrophes that have happened during the last years due to the construction of the dams. Since then, flood disasters and massive dehydration on the rivers, alternatives in a constant rhythm to an unexpected extent. In the Mekong region alone, the livelihood of more than 50 million people now is threatened. The promises of the Lao government were once again not kept. The government Ministry of Energy has announced that the price of electricity will be reduced by 3% due to the COVID crisis. The government would incur 6 trillion kip debt for this measure. Shortly afterwards, however, the government announced that it was increase the electricity price by 2%. In practice, the electricity price is now 50% more expensive for citizens than before. And that had caused great unrest among the population. The development in Laos is by no means effective. After 46 years in government, the communists have still not managed to solve the country's main problems. The government's only solution is to ban criticism and the government in the country by depriving the people freedom to speech, increasing control over the people. Independent, non-governmental organizations that advocate human rights or environmental protection are prohibited by Decree 238. The lack of independence of the three state powers, judiciary, legislative, and executive, as well, all controlling Communist Party, which do not allow any opposition, also preventing the country from advancing. The recommendations of organizations are countries where mainly products from the depletion of Laos are distributed are encouraged to control the distribution more strictly. The import of such products must be banned in the countries of acceptance, mostly European Union, USA, Asian countries. The afforestation programs need to be strengthened urgently. As a consultant for sustainable timber management and environmental protection, international NGOs has to be able to access environmental protection such as Greenpeace, Robin Hood, WEED, whatever. Laos must consistently use the revenue generated from the export of electricity for the exploitation of its own electricity network instead of the expansion towards foreign countries. However, since the massive construction of dams is also of ecological concern, it must also be tested under the help of international specialists for environmental protection. Moreover, the electronic data of the Lao electricity industry must be disclosed in order to be able to be controlled by Parliament. Thank you for attention.
No problem, and thank you for bringing up the points that are so crucial. Because we're here at COP and there's thousands of people. How many independent Lao NGOs and civil society who are trying to protect their sacred spaces are here? Unfortunately, you're looking at the only 2 to 3 people who actually are focusing on Laos at this COP. So even though there's thousands here, this issue of Laos is not getting the attention that it must. You also brought up a great point when you talk about this basic point. It's really in the Paris Agreement. It's action for climate empowerment. There's supposed to be education, training, and availability of advocates and activists to share what is inside the Paris Agreement. And as you're describing it, it is illegal to actually stand up for what is in the Paris Agreement inside the borders of Laos. And you really brought up also the indigenous rights, where the indigenous people are trying to protect the land from the disastrous dams, and also to make sure that the process is also not only thinking of themselves in Laos, but downstream, where the Mekong comes out in the Mekong Delta. So you're looking at indigenous understanding that life is all interconnected, but the government is still having a financial fantasy where it's just exploitation and infinite growth at the hands of the people who are just trying to guarantee good governance. And the other aspect that I think is quite crucial, we know that Laos, before the takeover, was 70% covered with forest. Now it's 37. You can actually see almost half of the forest has been depleted in such a short time. So this is exactly goes against what we're trying to accomplish here at COP, where people are actually reforesting, where people are pledging to plant a billion trees. Well, the truth is we need to focus on each country and each community, and then we can make sure global society can achieve these aspirations. So this is just a snapshot of some of the serious situations that exist inside Laos, and we hope that you care enough to be able to also participate and definitely follow next week. Next week is the final week. Probably definitely start tuning in throughout the week, but on Thursday, Friday, and unfortunately I'll probably go through till Saturday, make sure that the governments keep their promises and that the Paris Agreement will be enacted, and that that promise only made a handful of years ago is not broken. We do not have another Earth, it's only one planet. And I thought that was a great point you mentioned too, because last night at the Blue Planet Alliance, there's many countries moving in the right direction. They've actually have Bhutan and Nepal who are pledging to be 100% renewable by 2045, and instead we have Laos exporting any economic aspect they have and not bringing in the resources where they have sun, they have the things they can do, and it goes along with your recommendations, Bhutan. and what has already been recommended by the Universal Periodic Review in the third review of Laos, also by multiple special procedures, the Human Rights Council rapporteurs, and most recently this summer, I'll never forget the important work done around the voluntary national review of the Sustainable Development Goals. All those are foundations, and now we have the nationally determined contributions, but we don't see the action that must be done that has been promised here at Glasgow. So that's why we're happy you're here to be able to stand up and push for Earth democracy in Laos and throughout Southeast Asia.